Cyclops is one of the original and most iconic X-Men, but he's never really hit it big on film due to the studio's faults. But this could all change with the MCU Cyclops movie with its X-Men initiative. The X-Men movies from 21st Century Fox have been around for nearly 20 years, but the Cyclops we saw on screen was pretty different from his comic book version. X-Men number 14 explains exactly why Cyclops worked so well in the comics and what he was missing in the movies. Despite being played by 3 different actors and showing up in 7 films, Cyclops never really became a fan favorite like Rogue, Wolverine, Mystique, Magneto, or Professor X. He often took a backseat in the storylines and was mostly known as Wolverine's love rival for Jean Grey. His death in X-Men The Last Stand felt pretty underwhelming, and while Scott Summers is a key member of the X-Men in the comics, he usually wasn't the leader in the films. That role often went to Storm or Wolverine. But Cyclops is far from just a minor character, and X-Men number 14, written by Jerry Duggan and illustrated by C.F. Villa, really shows this. After Iceman saves the world from a major threat, Cyclops sets out to confront the progenitor Celestial, the centerpiece of the Axe Judgment Day crossover event. With the Celestial judging everyone on Earth due to the conflict between the X-Men and the Eternals, Cyclops challenges its authority. He says, "The only person who can judge me is my wife, Jean Grey. Maybe I'd also listen to my teammates, the X-Men." In the end, the Celestial judges Cyclops favorably, and Scott walks away with a confident remark, "And if you keep that thump up, we won't have to meet again." Cyclops is a true leader at heart. He sees himself as defined by his team and constantly makes the tough calls so his team doesn't have to. He's often caught between making decisions that affect his team and those that impact the future of mutant kind, and he struggles with every single one of them. On top of that, Cyclops has faced massive personal trauma between issues with his brother Havoc, his daughter Hope, and the death and resurrection of his wife Jean Grey. Scott Summers endures ongoing personal tragedies. Despite all this, he's still expected to lead the X-Men and represent them publicly in the Krakoa era. Critics of Scott Summers often say he's too stoic and lacks a standout personality, but behind his visor, this battle-hardened leader hides a lot of pain and worry. Events like Avex, Fear Itself, and the current Judgment Day arc show that Scott has the strength to make tough decisions and live with the consequences. In the comics, Cyclops is a natural leader who understands that while his choices for the X-Men might not always be popular, they are always necessary. Now, this could all change if MCU comes up with a good cast and a better script that are more truthful to comics of X-Men and especially his powers. Cyclops has the ability to shoot powerful energy beams from his eyes, known as optic blasts. These red beams deliver intense concussive force and are incredibly powerful, capable of cutting through steel, shattering rock, or even punching through a mountain. His cells absorb solar energy, which he can use to create openings to other universes from which the beams are fired. The blasts don't produce recoil or heat, but are constantly emitted from his eyes. To control this, Cyclops wears lenses made from ruby quartz in his sunglasses or visor, which are crucial for him to see without accidentally damaging things around him. The involuntary nature of his beams is thought to stem from psychological issues related to childhood trauma. Despite this, Cyclops can adjust the intensity of his blasts using the adjustable apertures in his visor. Cyclops has a lot of skill and precision when it comes to using his optic blasts. He can adjust the width, height, and intensity of his beams, and even reflect them off hard, shiny surfaces. This ability highlights his strong spatial awareness. His blasts can be so focused that they can punch a pinhole through a coin, drill through a log, or pierce the blob's skin. Cyclops has shown just how powerful his optic blasts are by blowing through hardened building walls, tunneling through rock, and even blowing the top off a mountain. Iron Man once measured his force beams at nearly 2 gigawatts, which is roughly half the peak output of a large nuclear power plant. This immense power once got so out of control that Cyclops needed help from Leech to neutralize his powers. Cyclops also has used his optic beams to knock Thor's hammer from his hand and overload Bishop's energy absorption. Despite his abilities, he typically uses only a small fraction of his full potential due to his concerns about the power of his blasts. Early on, Cyclops' optic beams were explained as energy released from his body's metabolism of sunlight and ambient energy, similar to how his brother Havoc metabolizes cosmic radiation. Cyclops' beams are the result of this absorbed energy being emitted from his eyes. In some stories, when he runs out of energy, he needs sunlight to recharge. If he's depleted, the intensity of his beams drops significantly. There was even a story where, in complete darkness with no ambient light to absorb, his power diminished enough that he could open his eyes safely without his visor. Originally, Cyclops' optic blasts were explained as coming from interdimensional portals in his eyes, with his body absorbing energy to release the beams. This was later updated in 1986. Cyclops is protected from his beams by a psionic field around him, allowing him to stop them by closing his eyes. He's immune to Havoc's plasma waves and resistant to Storm's lightning and his own blasts, though Vulcan's powers still affect him. In his X-Men uniform, he wears a ruby quartz visor with controls in his gloves, and in casual settings, he uses ruby quartz sunglasses or contact lenses. He struggles with controlling his powers is linked to his childhood. Initially, it was thought to be due to a head injury that affected his brain's ability to shut off his optic blasts. Later, it was revealed that his lack of control was more psychological, stemming from traumatic childhood experiences. This new explanation allowed him to control his blasts temporarily during a mission on Breakworld, but he eventually started losing control again and went back to using his visor and lenses. Cyclops' power has changed due to his exposure to the Phoenix Force. His optic blasts have become much stronger and now appear as multiple curved beams. These blasts are even powerful enough to cause Dormammu pain. However, Cyclops later got infected with nano-sentinels that worsened his control over his powers. His blasts became unpredictable and unstable, activating on their own. The issue wraps up with Beast removing the nano-sentinels from both Cyclops and Magic, which restores Cyclops' control over his enhanced optic blasts. Well, that's all for today. If you enjoyed the video, give us a thumbs up and share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe for the latest updates and hit the bell icon so you never miss a new video. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.